do class 4. Class 4 is
4A.
You can just look at the last folder we uploaded into your Moodle.
I think the last few videos.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell you which present,
Like,
which.
if we uploaded 4, that means we're up to 5. We uploaded
I
5
think we have
to 7.
presentation 2B, no?
3, yeah. 3 we did. 2 was the last one. We did 3. I think the last thing we did was.
This we did.
This semester bet is.
they just threw out one of our professors, so yeah, it is.
What do you mean?
Stop, they didn't throw my can't teach us anymore, so someone else is switching him.
Why can't he teach
We're up to
us?
class 5.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Who can't teach us?
Yariv.
Objects and Excel.
Are Reeves quitting?
We'll talk about it afterwards. לא רלוונטי כרגע.
Talk about it now.
No, we're in the middle of class.
Objects
Did
and
we learn if?
It's the third PowerPoint, objects and Excel.
Yeah, we're up to 3.
Did we learn if conditions?
If conditions, no.
We're up to 3.
3 what?
Objects in Excel.
Did you sign up for the hackathon?
No.
You got that one.
What are we doing?
The third PowerPoint, objects in Excel.
I've never seen this paper. Because they typed up English. What is that?
Okay, we're also in the Jewish 5 times. Today we did.
Put your shirt back.
About it's never going to see
Yo, guys.
Yeah.
He still hasn't shown to do.
Class is dismissed.
That was awesome. Are we on Torah tidbits again this week, or that was like a one-time thing? That was a big moment, not gonna lie.
You want to ask how much you I genuinely have no idea what you're talking about. You resend you my email address?
People from the street came over.
They should be promoting. They should be promoting guys who are actually looking for something.
Yeah.
They should be promoting guys who are actually looking for something.
I feel like an Avenger.
I'm telling you.
And you just kind of like, she's.
I heard they're making a movie based off the flyer. Such a success.
Munich, those where I come from, they kick them out of the
I'll be back.
Okay, did we do exercise 1? That's exercise 1 on.
I like it, the basics.
Exercise 1. Where is it? Where is that?
Slide 20. Objects in Excel.
Slide 20. Class exercise.
Key Excel objects. Type Excel. I don't believe so. No, I don't recall us touching font or color. No, we didn't.
yeah.
But this is all essentially what we did in the homework, no? At least the first one. The one homework that I did.
You already finished all this one?
Mizman.
We haven't done this PowerPoint at all.
We didn't do
No,
the
we didn't do, we ended off with 2 weeks. We finished 2 weeks, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, we never touched this. Doesn't ring a bell.
So we got which one are we doing?
3. God.
Is Abraham Nadell obviously I got
Well, bro, there's like tons of different numbers.
a crazy plot twist.
What are we doing?
As of now, we're doing O3 objects in Excel, and then slide 20.
No, I'm not gonna.
It's unclear if that's happening.
We'll see.
Slide 27?
I'm so happy we started at 5 to 1.
We need subtitles.
The game changing.
Say that.
So am I. Made my day.
You get
Hey.
computers are stolen again.
Okay. So, object is most of the coding that we do in VBA. And most of the things that we deal with are objects. And what are objects? Objects are code or commands that we use that refer to previously made code that we can use and take for granted that it's already there. Meaning, we don't have to start from the beginning. We can use the code that is already there to continue and use these building blocks, the objects, to do what we want. Okay? So all Excel is built on objects and it's hierarchical. Meaning, we have the Excel, which is the largest object in Excel. Within Excel, we have workbooks. The workbooks are files, entire files that are in Excel.
That's the sheets. That's the
Workbooks.
What's a word book? What
A
is that?
file, I'm saying.
No, we're
Word-
word file. I'm not following.
Empty Excel file.
When you open up Excel, this is a workbook.
The sheet.
No.
No, sheet exists within a work.
Within each workbook, which is the file, the whole file, we have sheets. Okay, the sheets are objects that are in a workbook. Each workbook contains different sheets. Okay, it could contain one or more sheets, and it could contain one or more modules. Okay, so the sheets are what you used to be looking at. Modules are what we started looking at, where we have our different programs. Okay, the macros that we write or record. The sheet itself contains cells, which is another object that is underneath in the hierarchical ladder or whatever. It's beneath. Each sheet contains many cells. And within the cell, we can put in numbers or text or whatever. Okay? Now each object has properties and methods. Properties are things that you can define regarding to that object, and methods are actions that you could do with the object. For instance, a property of a cell would be whether it's text or a number or date or things like that. A property of the cell could be the cell, the interior of the cell, and the color of the interior of the cell. Okay? So we have different hierarchies, and each object is somewhere in this hierarchy, and you can define the properties of that object.
So properties. Oh, sorry.
There are also methods. For instance, we could take a cell and copy its content, or take a cell and paste within that cell something that is already copied from before. So these are actions that we do, and for each object there are predefined properties and methods, and most of what we do in coding is to refer to these objects, to refer to their properties and change them, to refer to their methods and use those actions to do whatever we want to do. Okay? So basically, when we learn VBA, when we do coding, we are working with objects. This is an object-oriented programming language. 1 second.
Variable is considered a property or object?
What?
A variable is a property, object, or something different?
A variable is an object.
It is an object.
So the main difference between like properties and methods is properties like a feature, and the method just like the action that you take. Right. So.
Okay? Now, how do we have access to these different objects and properties? Okay? So it's always, we go according to the hierarchy. So for instance, and we go down in the hierarchy by putting a point. Okay? So for instance, selection is an object where we refer to the cells in the sheet that are now selected. Okay, they are now active. Referring to this object, we're referring to the number format. Okay, so this is a method of the object, and we define it as a specific format, which in this case means that we want a comma for the thousands, a comma separator, and we want 3 digits after the decimal point. Okay? So this is something that we recorded, I think, in the first lesson we had, and we got this code. And now we're going a bit more into depth what this code means. Okay? Again, we're referring to this object, we're referring to one of the methods of the object, and we're defining specifically what we want this method to be in this object. Okay? And this is something that you will see consistently throughout the whole coding that we will do or we already did. This is the basic format of a command. Okay, so like we said, there's the application, there's Excel. Within Excel we have different workbooks. This refers to the different files that we create. Within each workbook we have one or more worksheets, and we said we could have one or more modules and other things that we will learn and other things that we won't learn, but all of these are objects within the workbook. Within the worksheet we have ranges, could be the active cells that are selected, one cell, or any other kind of choosing cells within the worksheet. And for instance, the range could have the methods, the font, which font, Arial or Times New Roman or whatever, the border, whether it's in which color or there's no border, and the interior could have a color, and so on and so forth. Okay? Okay, so the period, like I said, we use to go to the lower stage in the hierarchy. That we, so for instance over here, application that workbooks. workbooks is the what's it? Collection of all the books that are within the work, within the application, okay, workbooks, and specifically we're referring over here to book 1. And notice again, as far as syntax, we have the parentheses, we have the quotation marks. It has to be this way, okay? Within the workbook that we chose, that belongs to the collection of the workbooks, there are worksheets, a collection of worksheets, and specifically we're referring over here to sheet number 1, or to the sheet that is named sheet 1, and within sheet 1, range would be A1. So we're referring to cell A1 in sheet 1, in book 1, in Excel. Okay? That's the way it works.
In what's called, could you like write this whole line into what's called into the code in the VBA?
Yeah. Exactly.
Usually like to separate things using commas and the and sign from that. So
No.
it's like interesting to see this.
Between objects, to go down in the hierarchy, we use the
Only for objects.
okay? Within the סוגריים, parentheses, thank you. I need to get back to the English.
It's fine.
Between the parentheses, if we have different properties that we need to, or parameters that we need to refer to, we separate those with a comma. Yeah.
What means the word application on the beginning? It means that
The whole Excel, the program.
so that we start a new program. It's like to push the first button in the car.
What?
To start a program.
Yeah, application, here we're referring to Excel. You can refer to the application Word, or any program that you use, that's the application, that's the main.
But this word we use if we have a longer code, we never use
Okay,
it.
we didn't use this up till now because we always did our work within Excel. So we don't need to refer to the application because we are already in Excel. So it's obvious. Now again, you don't have to go through this whole hierarchy to refer to cell A1. You can just write cell A1 equals 52, and cell A1 will get the number 52 within it.
So why would you want to do all this then?
So why do you want to do all of this? Okay.
To have said that, no?
Wait 1 second. Why do we want to do this? Okay. Because if I write cell A1, it will refer to the active sheet in the active workbook that is now on the computer. Okay, now if I have a few workbooks open, and within each one of them I have a few sheets, then I cannot control to which A1 cell my command will refer to. Unless I write exactly A1 within which sheet, within which workbook. Okay? Now if I have only one workbook open and only one worksheet, then I can straight ahead go and refer to the cell that I want, and I know exactly where it will go. But once I have a few worksheets, and it's specifically, I wanted to do every time I run the program, I want it specifically to happen in a specific worksheet, then it's advised to write which worksheet you want it to happen, because then it doesn't depend on what was the last sheet that the user opened, but it always refers to a specific worksheet. Okay?
So like that using object allows you to choose where it is as opposed to the one that happens to be open right now.
Right. Yeah.
Answer my question.
Okay. Here, this is what it says over here. This method can be risky to make sure you have active. You need to select the correct object. Okay, so range A1 will refer to the one that is happens to be active right now. If that's okay, fine. But usually, or many times, you would want it to happen in a specific sheet in a specific workbook. And if there's a chance that some of them will be open and the one that's active is not the one that you want, if that could happen, you better write the whole hierarchy and make sure you put it in the right place. Okay, so let's see, because this, again, you asked me at the first beginning, how do I know? Talk. Okay, just to remind you, we're working in Excel. This is how it looks. There's the developer, which we learned how to add at the beginning. You can go here to Visual Basic and get to the editor, and we can insert a module, which opens a new module, and within the module, we can insert a procedure, and we give the procedure a name, and okay, and we get the sub and end sub public. We could put or not. We said we're not going to refer to this in this course. And here we are, and let's say okay, once I write this cells, then and I put the parenthesis, it gives me the syntax that I need to. Okay, what's this? Cells 1-1?
It's the first cell in the first range, no?
Not the first cell in the first range. What is cells 1-1? Who remembers?
First row in the first column?
Column.
Exactly. Cells is all the cells that's in the worksheet. And then, if you saw, once I put this, it gives me row index, column index. If I write 1-1, which cell is this?
A1.
A1. Okay? Now, if I put a dot, okay, if I put the dot, it gives me a list of methods and properties that are relevant to this object. Okay? Activate is if you see over here, this is an action. Okay? This is the icon for action. And activate means make it the active cell. Add comment is to add a comment. And all of these are different properties that I can refer to. Column, which column it is in, comment to refer to the comment that it has already, copy is a method, and you have over here different methods and different actions that are relevant to this object. And every object that most of the objects will get a list like this. Once you get and put the dot, which we said is the basic element to to go from in the hierarchy of the objects, or to refer to a method or action within that refers to the object. Okay, so you can get this list just by writing the object, putting the dot, and getting the list.
There's a question. What you did right now, you went directly to range. So like, can you skip some of the steps when you're writing the whole object? When you know exactly where you want to go, you don't have to write the entire thing, application, workbook, sheet, blah, blah, blah. Like you just skip directly to range, right?
Range A1 equals 52. Okay? If I run this, what happens? I go over here, this equals 52. Now, I want 52 to be written in sheet 3. Okay? So, I run this. What happens? 52 is written in sheet 4. Why is that? Because this is the active sheet, and we said that if I want it, if I don't specify, it will go to the active object that is the object that is active then.
No,
One second. So if I do want, I write. Okay, so let's go over here. Worksheets.
Right, active cell. Like if you want to just click on the cell and then it'll go in there.
Okay, so I can write okay. Now if I run this, I am on sheet 4, but sheet 3 has what I wanted. Okay? So I wrote worksheets 3, range A1 equals 52. I'll be here in sheet 2. Okay? There's nothing here. I'll go over here and I'll erase sheet 3 also. Now the active sheet is sheet 2. I run this. Sheet 2 is empty. Sheet 3 has the 52. Why? Because I referred specifically to what I wanted. Now, just notice, I didn't write over here worksheet 3. The name of the sheet is, excuse me, I didn't write sheets 3. That's the name of the, let's go like this and do this. Sheets 2 is the name of, I make 4 the active. I change, instead of sheet 3, I change this to the name in parentheses. And now if I run my code, I get in sheet 4 nothing, sheet 2 has. So there's 2 ways to refer to the sheet within the worksheets. One is to write a number without parentheses. The second is to write the name of the sheet with parentheses. Okay? Now, when would I use each one of them? What do you think? Why would I want to choose this one and not that?
Let's say you have a very general macro.
Yeah.
So whenever you have a sheet 1, you're going to want to use this. But if you have a very specific macro, called like red, you want to make the name red, so that way it only happens to that one.
Your sheets are based
Also,
on some
a lot of
definition.
sheets could apply macros to any sheet you want. If you have the greater macro, then you just put in the sheet specific you want. If a general macro, by the whole sheet, you just type in equals this sheet. And you have it.
I like it we have made a discussion. We can only discuss our favorite macros.
I have another question.
1 second, let's answer the first question before we go. Okay, yeah.
The question was, when would you use this?
When would you use each one of the methods?
I feel like you would need to use the name, when you write in the name of the sheet, if you have 50 sheets and each one is based off of a person's name and you want it to go to a specific person, then you just type in the person's name rather than remembering which sheet they are out of the 50, 60 sheets.
The sheets are dependent on each other, so changing.
Or 50 companies.
Okay, right. Okay, so look at this.